Welcome back. In the second half of today's discussion, we want to talk about social media tools. We want to talk about the different networks that are out there that exist today. Today being June 11th, 2018, because this has to be recorded on a continual basis because of all the changes that take place. And we'll take a look at some of the techniques that are and the technologies that are happening in social media. So let's talk about consumer and corporate generated content. Consumer content and corporate content can be created based upon blogs. Okay, so corporations will have blogs where they'll post information about themselves. Usually that's in reaction to something they've dug up on social media or something they've seen through another form of consumer tracking. Then you'll have consumers will do the same thing. They'll post something that they think is important. It could be about your product. Maybe it didn't perform as it was supposed to, or your service wasn't up to par. But they'll post something. We have to look at those. We also have to look at microblogs, which are just smaller versions of those particular types of blogs. Blogs can be short, they can be diatribes. Short's better. People have short attention spans. Nobody wants to read a lot on screens. So keeping your blog short really fits. Okay, how about social networks? Well, the granddaddy of them all, Facebook. Well, I guess the granddaddy would be MySpace, but I don't think anybody uses MySpace anymore. Okay, so the granddaddy is Facebook. Passe if you're below 45. Really passe if you're below 30. You guys probably have a Facebook account, but it's probably not your primary methodology of communication or your primary method of communication, social media wise, just because your parents are on it. Okay. And that's the one thing we're really seeing is that it's really seen as something that's for older people. And it's becoming, when I look at what Facebook's become, it's becoming that. Okay. You've got LinkedIn, kind of Facebook for the professional set. LinkedIn is if you're looking for a job, you want to communicate with your classmates. It's much more professional. You generally don't put anything on about, today I had for lunch. It's more about thoughts and processes as they revolve around your work life. Okay. The downside of LinkedIn is so far we've yet to figure out a way to monetize it as a marketer. Even LinkedIn has a tough time making money on LinkedIn, which is a bad sign. You got media sharing sites, Spotify, okay? You can go share songs. You've got social news sites. There's all sorts of those. I was going to say BuzzFeed's one of them. Very popular these days for going and sharing your news sites. You've got location-based social networking sites. You'll have something that's very specific to University of North Dakota, for example, okay? And it's all about that. I think was it the Barstool, that the podcast that's run by a couple of the guys that talks about what's going on in UND athletics and what's going on in the various frats and sororities on campus is a great example of kind of location-based social networking that they've got through their podcast, okay? You've got review sites, IMDb. You have Rotten Tomatoes would be up in the social network side now. You've got product review sites. You've got all sorts of different review sites that you can use. You have virtual worlds and online gaming, very big. Okay, virtual worlds, whether it's first-person shooter or you're in an alternate universe. I know right now my wife's big virtual world is Dancing with the Stars. That she's found this great Dancing with the Stars game where it basically looks like it's got a Candy Crush kind of front end on it. You collect points, which then allows you to do different dance moves. You put together a routine. You appear before the judges. It's the UK. It's made out of the UK because all the judges are the UK judges. But it's interesting, and what I've noticed with her over the past 8 weeks is it's become all-consuming for her. This particular game. Every time that we're together, it's just not 10 minutes before she's got this thing out trying to score more points and collect more viewers so she can move up, and then also complain that some people are buying points And I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, where you can buy things in game to do things. Okay, online gaming, and that's just going to keep growing, especially with the recent rulings in the courts about allowing gaming, especially gambling on sporting events outside of Nevada. That's really going to have a big impact, as we'll see a lot more online gaming going on. But you'll see online casinos, poker, that's been around for a long time. All of those are forms of social media. So what about the technology involved? Well, you've got the mobile phone technology, okay? You've got SMS and MMS. So SMS, very simple text messages. MMS, you can have a multimedia text message. You guys know that, okay? I told you that just because it's in the book, and I wanted to make sure I covered it off. But what you're seeing is there's more and more that we're trying to go more and more MMS because we're trying to get a richer experience for a customer. And as more and more people go to the smartphone, MMS will become much more of the standard. We're seeing Bluetooth marketing. You know, we're putting up a little Bluetooth areas where we can capture people as they're walking by or our shop or whatever. So we can market directly to them. We can send the message out to their device as they're going by. And again, as more and more people carry around tablets and smartphones that are Bluetooth capable, we will see more and more of that. Okay, we're seeing apps being written. Well, apps are coming out every day. Some of you have probably written apps. When I was teaching at the University of Texas, the guy who had the office next door hated apps. He was an old Apple guy, and his line was, today's $3.99 app, tomorrow's bargain bin 99 cents. He said they have really no staying power. And to an extent, he's right. I mean, some of the apps that come out, they come and go in a heartbeat. I think one app that I've got on my phone, which I haven't used in forever, is you could take any photo and it would turn it into a collage of Cheetos. So you could do something, an interesting concept, kind of fun for a week, and then, not so much fun. Most of the major apps have come out, but already major apps like Facebook, again, dating myself, Instagram, Kik, WhatsApp, Twitter, YouTube, all of those that have come out. Now, that's not to say there won't be another, killer app coming down the road. As somebody figures out something that's missing in people's lives, you'll see that. I think what you're going to see is very targeted apps now. They'll definitely target a smaller niche market, and they'll develop an app that reacts to that market. And that makes sense because we've moved more into the later growth, early maturity stage of the product life cycle for smartphones. Okay, we've seen the widgets come out. Widgets are just applications that run entirely within existing platforms. So the weather forecast is a great example of that. Everybody's got it, runs at the bottom. Okay, so that's widgets. All right. The big thing in this chapter, this piece, is the social media plan. And the social media plan begins much like your objectives. Listen to your consumer. Listen to your customer. Now, guys, if you think way back to the beginning of the textbook, that's what we said marketing's all about, listening to the customer. So nothing's really changed. We've just changed the way we're doing it. So start by listening to the customer. What are they saying? What are they missing? What's the problem they have? Okay? You might hear the phrase pain point. What's the pain point they've got? Then set your objectives. We'll go back to those 5 objectives we had. Figure out which objectives you want your social media to reach. Is this something about managing your reputation, or is this something about getting them to buy your product? Is this something about building, or is this something about basically just playing defense? So once you've got your objectives, then figure out your strategy. We know which platforms to use. We know the message we need to get out. How are we going to get that out? And that takes you back to that whole concept of, do we want to pulse it? Do we want to flight it? Because again, social media is a lot like some of the other media. In order for people to see it, we might have to post it 3, 4, 5, 6 times to have an impact. Because that one time is probably not going to have the impact. Okay, so we need to figure out what's our strategy. Who's the target audience? What part of our consumer base are we going after? Okay, are we going after the heavy users, to use that Google, the 5,000 touches a week group? We're going after the 2,200 touches a week group. Who's the group? What are we trying to communicate to them? What do we want them to do? Then we figure out, okay, we know what we want them to do. We know the objectives. We'll choose the platforms that are best suited to deliver those messages. If you want straight text, you're not going to use YouTube. If you want video, YouTube's probably what you want to do. If you want a photo, Instagram is what you want to use, okay? And then once you've got everything set up, you implement and monitor the strategy. It's very similar to what we've talked about in other areas. So again, start, listen to the customer. Set your social media objectives. Define your strategies for reaching those objectives. Okay? Sounds like chapter 5. All right? Figure out the customer. Set objectives. Strategies to achieve objectives. Yeah, I think we've seen this play before. All right? Then we do the target audience. Who are we going after? Is it the heavy users, the light users, the non-users? Are we going after people who we think could use our product? Are we going after people who we want to move up from one level to the other? Then we select the right tools and platforms. We figure out the social media platforms that are best suited for the targets we're going after. And then we implement it. And once we implement it, we monitor it. And we monitor it in real time, because that's the beauty of social media. So if we've made a mistake, or we haven't quite guessed correctly, we can correct our issues faster than we've ever been able to do it before. Okay, so that's it. Listen to customers, set your social media objectives, define your strategies, identify your target audience, select the tools and platform, implement and monitor the strategy. That's your social media plan. You've seen it before. All we've done is replace one phrase with another. Now, to close today, I want to give you one piece of advice about social media. Really simple. It's always changing. So if you watch this video 2 years from now, you're going to go, man, was he out to lunch? And I will be the first person to admit that, because the stuff we know today is going to be supplanted by double the amount of information next week. So everything we've talked about now is current as of today, June the 11th, 2018. But keep in mind, it's always changing. All right, that's it for social media. I'm going to post some other videos for you to take a look at. Have a look at those, and I'll see you tomorrow when we're talking about pricing. Thanks. Good night.